let's talk about the books that I read in March, shall we? So my March reading theme was sequels or continuing series, however you want to put it, because they weren't all the second book in a series, but they were not the first in a series. The first book that I read was A Conjuring of Light by V.E. Schwab, which is the third and final book in the Shades of Magic series. I absolutely adored this. I can't say much about this one specifically, because in order to say what this one's about, I'm going to have to give a lot of way about the previous books, but if you haven't read this series, I highly recommend it. It is about a multiverse, basically, in which a London exists in every single one, and in, like, the same, like, place in each universe. And there used to be a lot of these magical people who could travel between worlds, but now there's only two of them left, our main character Kel, and someone from one of the other Londons. And there's different types of magic in the different worlds, or no magic if we're talking about our London, technically. And it basically just follows our main character and the people that he comes across and the people that he meets, with a whole bunch of shenanigans and trouble that he gets into. There is a lot of really exciting stuff in it. I feel like the writing style is also very calm a lot of the time, and I love her characters so much, and I just was sucked into this story so easily. I read the first 100 pages like that, like it was like nothing. I did do a little bit of tabbing. I absolutely adore this woman's writing and her characters most of the time. This is a good series. I recommend the series if you haven't picked it up yet. I can't believe it took me so long to read the third one, but I finally read it, and I'm so glad that I finally got around to reading it. One of the reasons I was putting it off was because I thought it was really, really big and it intimidated me, and it's, like, not that big. Like, I've read bigger books than this. I don't know. I guess when it came out, I hadn't read a lot of big books, but I've read some big books since then, I guess. So anyway, it's like only a little bit of a big book. But I gave this 5 stars. Delightful. Absolutely wonderful. Loved this so much. The next book that I read is a sequel. It's The Ask and the Answer by Patrick Ness, which is the sequel to The Knife of Never Letting Go. I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. There was just a big chunk in the middle where it kind of felt like it was dragging a little bit. It had a lot of, like, war stuff and military stuff and war schemes and planning, and back and forth between, like, oh, that plan didn't work, or we still have to do this a bunch of times before our master plan works. And there was a lot of, like, that kind of stuff that I am not interested in, and I thought kind of went on a little too long. But besides that, I really enjoyed it. I thought the way the story went was pretty interesting. It's super different from the first book. It goes in a completely different direction, and this one is also dual point of view. I'm not going to tell you why, but the two main characters from the first book are separated in this one for a big chunk of it, so we get alternating chapters between Todd's and Viola's view, which I really liked, and that's pretty much all I can say about it, but I really enjoyed it. Not as much tabbing as the first book that I read. I only tabbed 2 things in here, but it was great. It was an excellent sequel, and I'm excited to read the last one. I also read Children of Virtue and Vengeance by Tomi Adeyemi, and I was very disappointed in this one. Unfortunately, I gave it 2 stars. The first book I thought was excellent. I gave the first book 4 stars. I really enjoyed the first book. This one is completely different, and I feel, to me, this book felt like a rough draft. Like, it felt unpolished and unedited. And I could be completely wrong, obviously, but it feels like the first book did really well, that they didn't try as hard with the second book, because they knew people were going to buy it no matter what. Doesn't matter if it sucks, people are going to buy it because they liked the first one. But now people aren't going to want to buy the third one. Also, I don't even think there's a third one. This came out like 3 years ago, and there's no third one yet on Goodreads still. But this one, I felt like it had a lot of that back and forth army military stuff. There's also a lot of, like, fantasy cultish stuff, which I don't understand why so many fantasy books have to have, like, basically a cult surrounding the people who have these magical powers. Like, why do they all have to be a part of a group with cultish rules and living arrangements? I don't get it. Anyway, this had that. I didn't like it. There was a lot of war back and forth that felt like it went back and forth too many times. People trusting and not trusting people and changing their minds over and over and over again, and it got tiring. unfortunately. I also felt the last 100 pages or so, I was very aware that I was reading a book. Like, I felt like the sentences were choppy, they didn't flow nicely. I just was getting tired of it. I just wanted it to be over, and I feel really bad, especially because the first third or so of this book I was really enjoying, and I was super interested in the story, and I wanted to keep going. And then it just kind of took a little nosedive, and it really disappointed me. But I feel like this, it felt like, while I was reading that this book did not have as much care put into it as the first one did. There was also a lot of, like, inconsistencies, it felt like to me, towards the story and the magic system. There were huge, like, such cop-out magic things that happened, and there was also a couple things that I was very confused about how people were interacting in certain situations and where they were. It felt like either there was a huge continuity error or things were not explained properly. I'm so disappointed. I was so excited for this because I really enjoyed the first one and I thought this was going to be pretty solid, and unfortunately it wasn't for me. And I actually took a break from Children of Virtue Inventions. There was actually like an entire week where I didn't pick it up at all because I just did not want to. After picking it up again and having trouble getting through more than like 10 pages at a time, I decided to read chapter 55 of Saga, which is very exciting. I saw this at Indigo like a little over a month ago, I think. I had my nerve block done and I was in pain and I wanted to go to the bookstore, which was not the best idea because I couldn't walk. This was there. It was like $3. So I just read through this. It was fabulous. It's like a 15-minute read. It's just a single issue comic, but it was fantastic. And if you didn't know, now you do. They're no longer on their hiatus. They've got more stuff coming. So I don't know when there's going to be a new bind up. Probably a while, but if you can get your hands on the single issue comic, it's something. It's something, right? It was good. 5 stars. Fantastic. Loved it. Those are the books that I read in March. And we'll see you in a little bit with the books that I'm decided to read in April, which I still haven't decided on while filming this video. So, okay, bye. Have a good day.